And welcome to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. I'm your host, Sadia, and this is my mother, Ima. Hello, Ima.
Hi, sweetheart. And to those who are listening, my son made me promise not to say anything controversial. Far be
Uh,
it from me to want to start any controversies or any friction.
we're just trying to keep things light and entertaining, not trying to, bash your personal political opinions on everybody. But that's okay. It's fine. We still love you. Um, this week's topic, we'll be talking about Yom HaAtzmaut, and my beautiful young mother still remembers what it was like when Israel was still a budding state, and I would want to know her perspective and her stories that she's experienced over the years with Israel developed as time goes by. So take it away, Ima.
As time goes by. Well, in my I told you that Chris, I was born in 1951, and your aunt, my older sister, was born in 1948. And I remember when my sister turned 13, that they had a special celebration dinner for the 13-year-olds, for the Jewish kids in Baltimore who had been born in 1948 as part of Yom HaAtzmaut. Of course, I was very jealous that I wasn't invited to the celebration dinner because I wasn't born in 1948. But Aunt Ann went to the dinner. I also remember when I started when my sisters and I started Hebrew school. There was a very, very big Zionistic push, and also a big push to teach Hebrew as opposed to Yiddish, because first of all, everybody was the fact that we Jews, after 2,000 years, finally had our own country. You have no idea what this did for Jewish pride. Um, they the idea, I remember when I was in Hebrew school, we were told to go home and find out what our Hebrew names were. My parents didn't speak Hebrew, of course. My father went to Hebrew school. In those days, when my mother was little, Hebrew school was not for girls. In fact, there was no Beis Yaakov in Baltimore. There was no real Jewish education for girls. This is the 1920s and early 30s. And my mother's younger sister, who was 10 years younger than she was born in the 1930s, and she actually went to the Hebrew school movement started in the 1940s for girls, and so she went to Hebrew school and she learned how to read Hebrew. My mother and father, though, did not know too much about Hebrew, but they did know Yiddish. They knew how to. My father knew how to read Hebrew with the davening. My mother did not. So I asked my parents what my Hebrew name was, and they had given me a Yiddish name. They said, your name is Zalka Devera. So I went back to Hebrew school, and the Hebrew school teacher asked me what my Hebrew name was, and I said, Zalka Devera. She almost hit the ceiling. She goes, what kind of a name is that? And so she thought, she goes, I know. I'll call you Devora.
Devora.
Yeah, and I hated being called the name ever since.
Really? It's a nice name. I don't see what the problem is. No, really, seriously. I really think it's a good name.
Yeah, but my real name is Zalka, so this is my first
Yes.
name. Devora is my middle name, but so anyway, but I remember like I said, the big push to also the difference in attitude between my parents' generation and my generation was like night and day. Um, Before Israel became an independent state, the you had no idea how can I say it, the horrible feeling of inferiority that was rampant among Jews. My parents were raised, well, my father being a man, being a boy. If anybody, ever called him any anti-Semitic slur, being a guy, being a boy, he would punch the guy or something, be aggressive. Boys and men in those days were raised to be fighters. Girls in those days, in the 20s and 30s, were raised to be, before World War II, a girl was raised to be a lady. Girls were not supposed to fight. And
Could have fooled me.
My well, and my mother's attitude was, you don't fight the goyim. There was this horrible feeling among Jews before Israel became a state that you don't fight the goyim, you don't start trouble, you don't fight the goyim. You walk away or something, or you don't fight back. My generation, it was completely different. It was like anyone calls you any anti-Semitic name, you beat the living daylights out of them. Doesn't matter if you're a girl. I told you that story.
Yeah, I remember you told me that story about but not on the radio, not on the show.
I didn't come to the show. Okay.
No, this is a new thing.
When I was in 7th grade, it was after school on a Friday, and there were no teachers around. Tisk, tisk. And these two non-Jewish girls, I had never faced blatant anti-Semitism before in my life. And they started to call me kike and all sorts of names. And I had made, when I was 10 years old, was when all these pictures were posted in Life magazine that had been uncovered about the Holocaust. They were still uncovering information, even at that late stage.
Wow.
And I remember looking at the pictures of the bodies and of the starving people and of the horrible people in the gas chambers, and getting angrier and angrier and angrier as I'm turning each page and thinking to myself, if anybody calls me any type of anti-Jewish name, I am going to beat the living daylights out of them. And so these girls, two of them, these girls started calling me all these anti-Semitic. They were like white Anglo girls. And all I could think about was the 6 million in the Holocaust and how I was going to pay them back for it. I grabbed one of those girls. I started punching her so hard that her friend got scared and ran away and left her.
Good for you.
It could have been 2 against 1, but her friend got so scared, she just ran. This girl was so shocked because after the Holocaust, Jews had a reputation for not being fighters. And when I started punching this girl out, she had this look of shock on her face. And she says, "Oh my God, you Jews really do know how to fight." And she left her books and everything and just ran. I grabbed her books, her notebook. I chased after her. And as she ran out of the building, I yelled at her, "Hey, you forgot your books." And I threw them up in the air and kicked them. And of course, they fell all over the lawn, and papers were being blown all over the place. And that's the last I saw of those 2 girls or heard from them. I think they avoided me after that. But
I would.
So, and when I came home, I was so proud of myself. I told my family what I had done. My mother was, "Oh my goodness, you fought the good, and a girl, you beat, a girl's not supposed to fight like that." And my sister, though, gave me a yashikol. She goes, "Good for you." So you saw the complete difference in attitude. Just like I said, the state of Israel really did a lot for Jewish pride.
Yeah, that's why ever so often, like, I still think about it now, where it's a miracle that the whole situation happened, and that, like, it has been 2,000 years and we finally have our land back, and it is just mind-boggling. I mean, we still are fighting for it today. It's not going to stop until Mashiach comes, but we at least finally have, like, the land. And for me, growing up, I always felt a strong connection to it, obviously, but in a very, very spiritual, religious sense. When I was there, for 2 years, I definitely felt a level of being home. In America,
Yes.
I always felt like a stranger.
Yes.
It always made me uncomfortable. Like, no matter how much I tried, I couldn't bring myself up to, like, even talking to somebody in a way, like just the way I talk, the way I express myself. Like, when I went to Israel, I finally found myself and found who I was, and felt really home. And it's so funny because I think every Jew feels that way, whether consciously or subconsciously, that when they get to Israel, they're finally home.
I find myself sometimes when I was in Israel in '73, I almost stayed, and I decided at the last minute not to stay. But I felt my family was in the United States. I had nobody there, and I just felt that if I don't come, first of all, I had a job waiting for me in Baltimore City and is in the public school system, and there were friends of mine in college who, were having trouble finding jobs, and I was not only offered one job in Baltimore City very, very quickly. Before I graduated, I was offered two jobs in Baltimore City, either one in the elementary school or one in the junior high school. I chose the one in the elementary school. And I thought to myself, if I give up that job and don't come home, my mother is going to kill me.
Yep.
I did not want to face her wrath. Now, Aunt Ann confessed to me, though, years later. She says, when you were in Israel that summer in '73, she goes, almost every day, Mom kept saying, she's not coming back. I know she's not coming back. I know she's not coming back.
How was it, I guess, growing up and hearing about the 6-Day War? You must have been in high school.
Yes, I was in high school. What happened was I was in high school, and I auditioned to do a singing engagement at the Hadassah annual banquet, and I got the audition. They liked me, and they asked me to, they asked me to please sing. I said it was not just me; it was a couple other singers that performed. I played the violin, and I also sang. In fact, I sang the selection. I sang the selection from Fiddler on the Roof, and played the violin at different parts of the song. So when I was there, this was when the the '67 war just started, and a lot of the ladies at the gathering were very, very, I could say, preoccupied, nervous, upset, because many of them had children that were studying in Israel at the time, and they had all gotten telegrams. In those days, no cell phone in those days. To telephone the United States from Israel was a whole rigmarole. That's a whole story in itself. But and it cost $10 for 3 minutes.
Wow, that's expensive.
So, but you could send telegrams were cheap. You could send a telegram, and they had all gotten telegrams from their children saying that they were not leaving. People were very, very. But the funny thing was, I was not nervous. In fact, I was very. I don't know, for some reason, not only was I not nervous, I was very excited. I was very happy because I just had this feeling. I had this very, very strong intuition that not only was everything going to be okay, but that Israel was going to have a big victory. I was like, I think I was 96. I was 16 years old at the time, and I just knew. I just knew that this was going to, that only good was going to come out of this. That this was going to be terrific for Israel. And I saw, when I saw all the, I saw these people crying and wailing and upset and yada yada, and I was smiling. And I don't know, I was smiling and laughing. I thought it was going to be great. And I remember we were all glued. We were all glued to the television. The United Nations Security Council called an emergency meeting. And at that time, the United States ambassador was a Jewish man named, I think his name was I forgot his first name was Arnold Goldberg. I forgot the man's first name, but his last name was Goldberg. And he was talking at the Security Council. And then Abba Eben was an amazing speaker. And he spoke to the Security Council for, my goodness, it was half an hour maybe. But all I remember is me and my sisters and our whole family was just, like I said, we were glued to the television, just watching the proceedings. And
weren't you like dating a guy who was like anti-Zionist, anti-Semitic, and you didn't realize it until he said something about the war?
No. that was not in high school. No, in high school I was dating a Jewish guy in high school.
Oh,
And
so
I never dated anybody anti-Semitic. What happened was that was a different story. Our orchestra. Oh yeah, it was during the 6-Day War. Thank you for reminding me.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, our orchestra had was playing at a competition, a music competition at University of Maryland. It was high schools all over Maryland were coming to compete and to be judged on our performances. And so when we got to University of Maryland, our music director gave us permission to roam the campus, talk to the student, do whatever we want, but just be back at the concert hall by, say, like 3:00. You know, he didn't care what we did until then, but be back at that concert hall at 3:00. So I was walking around, whatever, and I happened to run into some students, and we just struck up a conversation. And everyone's just talking very casually. Hi, who are you? You know, where you from? Yada yada. And I said, oh, that I was with I explained with my high school orchestra. What do you play? Violin. And we're here for a music competition. And we're just talking. So there was a guy in the group who he and I he was talking to me, and he offered to buy me a soda. I said thank you, and he bought me a soda. And I was in the middle of drinking the soda when somebody ran up to the group and yelled, "Did you hear the latest? The Israelis just took over the Gaza Strip," or something. I forgot, it was some big area that we just taken over. So the Israelis just took over the Gaza Strip. Looks like they're going to win. This guy was like very, very excited, like, big news. And the guy who brought me the soda said, "Oh, damn Jews." And I took that soda and threw it right at him.
You go, girl. You go.
And would you believe he pulled back his fist and stepped forward, and I put my hands at my side. I stepped right up to him, prepared to take the punch. I didn't care. And he looks at me. It's like, okay, what are you going to do? You're going to hit this little girl that's like half your size. And he just put his fist down and turned around and walked away.
I'm just surprised at the blatant racism, anti-Semitism, and physical violence that happened in the 60s and 70s. That was like totally like, oh, and he just continued about his day, even though he was about to punch a woman in the face. Like, his friends didn't talk to him about what he needed to work on controlling his temper or things like that. No, not at all. No, life goes on. Oh well. So I have a question. Do you remember when Yerushalayim was captured?
Yes, it was. All I can remember was the tremendous amount of pride and jubilation in the Jewish community. I mean,
pardon the pun.
Jews, yeah, right. Jews, everybody was so proud of being Jewish that we put Israeli flags on our cars. I was with a group of friends. We put an Israeli flag on our car, and we just drove around, and we drove up to a Shell station, a Shell gas station, because Shell was known for having oil holdings in the Arab countries.
Oh.
And we purposely drove up, and we called out to the gas attendant, "A quart of oil if you have it." We started to laugh and drove away.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That's funny. You never told me that before. That's really funny. Yeah. That's why it's so interesting about the state of Israel, about at least what it represents and what the Jews have done to get it. And that's why there's even special prayers that some Jews say on Yom Ha'atzmaut, because it was an important day, thanks to Hashem, thanks to God, that we have this. It wasn't because of us, that's for sure. We got this by the grace of God, and we should take care of it as such.
I was once attending a conclave where somebody asked the woman who was in charge of the workshop about Chabad's attitude towards the state of Israel, which is different from some other Hasidic groups. By the way, Chabad men do serve in the Israeli army.
Yes.
Yeah, as opposed to some other religious groups. And she the explanation she gave, she said that, true, that it would have been nicer had Mashiach come after World War II. But she says that the Rebbe felt that if this is the way that God wants us to have Israel, this is the way God wants us to have Israel right now for the time being, and that we should work with it. We should accept it, and we should work with it.
100%. 100%. Well, that's our time. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe and all that jazz. And have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Have a good Shabbos.
Oh, and happy birthday, Saadia.
Yes, it's my birthday. Yes, I was actually born on Yom Ha'atzmaut.
Something, yes.
Yeah. You learn new things every day, guys. You didn't know that. All right.
And his Sphira, we're counting Sphira now. For those who don't know about counting Sphira, what it is that the days between Pesach and Shavuos, each day is another type of spirituality that comes down to the earth. And today, the spirituality, which is Saadia's birthday, is called the Foundation of Beauty. And that's why my son's an architect. Foundation and beauty going together.
Yep. All right. Okay. Thank you, everybody. All right. Take care. Love you, man.
Love you too, honey.
Bye.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. Please like and share and find us on Facebook at Jewish Boy Calls His Mother Podcast. We are looking forward to hearing from you.